Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Soundboards and chords and something called an MDHX here. I don't know what any of this
Anyway,
is.
talk about Patriots.
DMHX. I don't know what that is.
He's just rattling off letters and numbers.
Very excited about it. I'm not going to give away anything,
Nothing.
Deuce.
I'm not going to say a word.
Well, you tried
I
last
did.
week.
I did.
Yeah.
I mentioned that there were people in
Will
it.
you stop?
Clintus.
So I don't know.
Clintus.
Back in
Clintus
Clintus days.
back on Clintus's dime.
You got to take a bike to that game, though, right?
See, I had the bike with Bart.
Yes. And Alex is on the back, ringing the bell.
We're
It's
here.
actually Trags.
How close is Kansas City to Chicago?
I don't have an atlas with me, but I'm going to say
No, but
pretty
you know
close.
what I'm saying.
4 hours
mean
for
guy.
mandatory minicamp. You know,
I'm not wrong.
I didn't say you were wrong. I just said you were mean.
Audrey
Uh-oh.
in New Hampshire.
Wants a
says
piece of Mike.
the absolute last place I would ever want to be is up your butt.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Fueled by Duncan.
All right, welcome in to Patriots Unfiltered. That's right, it's Thursday here at Gillette Stadium, and we will be talking some Patriots here for the next couple hours. That's right, it's Deuce back on the hosting chair. Fred's got some boss man responsibilities today. I'm here with Paul Perillo, Evan Lazar, and we got some stuff going on today. We're obviously waiting for the schedule to come out, and there was an announcement this morning. Tom Brady is going to be coming back for the Patriots home opener this year, announced by Robert Kraft this morning on NFL Network. And I just got to say right off the top, for all the people who are writing in saying, is that it? Is that all they're doing? Watch the video. And he said, this is just the start of many ways to honor Tom, but this seems like a simple way just to get him back in the building and you know, kind of bring him back into the fold a little bit. But I don't think this is the end of it. So a lot of people reaching out on Twitter and emails are like, is that it? They're just going to have have him at the game? No.
It's the beauty and then the down, the downfall of Twitter, because people are, the beauty is you get some information, right? Robert Kraft said Tom Brady's going to be honored, but then people didn't actually see what was said, and I think some jumped to conclusions, including my buddy Chris with a TIAN, who evidently couldn't figure out that Robert specifically said, and I think I wrote in my original tweet, it's the first of many chances to honor Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So this is not going to be the only time.
Yeah.
Promise.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but my phone is already blowing up with people asking me if I can get them tickets to that game. I've already had 3 people reach out to me about tickets, and we don't really. Anyways, don't add us about tickets. All right,
No.
sorry. I love you all, but please don't.
No, just at Paul. He's the one who gets the tickets.
Yeah.
No one
Not
asked.
us.
No one asked.
No, that'll be a tough ticket to go
I haven't
by,
had a
but-
request since Taylor Swift.
No.
Yeah, a lot of
Which-
people.
In the
that
38
too.
requests that I got for that.
Next
which
weekend.
Unfortunately, I had let a lot of people down on that one. I
Yeah.
was
But not
only able-
everybody.
No, I got some
No,
people.
You hooked the important people up.
I did.
Yeah.
Well,
so-
I basically did it in order of people asking me.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a
That's
big
fair.
weekend. I think I mentioned my son Campbell's about to have his 11th birthday next week. Just wanted a limo to a dance next Friday. Calling around, there's no limos available because it's Taylor Swift night. Everything has been completely cleared out for his, so he will not be taking a limo to his 5th grade dance. It'll probably be my wife driving him in my Pathfinder. So, sorry, buddy.
That's kind of like a limo.
Just so you know, you'll be coming up on his therapy session in about 15 years.
Right? All I wanted
And
was
he
a
wouldn't
limo.
even get me a limo for my 5th grade dance.
For my 11th birthday, not
11th birthday.
No.
I know.
I was going with the 5th grade dance. It was just an 11th birthday.
Yeah.
I said in front of Lane, I'm like, I've only been in a limo twice in my life. One was my junior prom, and the other was my wedding. And she's like, that wasn't a limo. We just got a car. I was like, all right, then I've only been in a limo once in my whole life, my junior prom. But what happened? Like, you drive around, I'm sure, like in your town, you ever drive around and there's like a
In a
house?
limo?
No. You're just driving around. There's a house, and there's just kind of a limo on the side, often parked there, and you wonder, does this guy have a side business as just a limo
Like,
driver? I see it all the time, just random limo.
I don't live in the posh suburbs like you do, so
well,
no.
These are the people who are driving the
I
limos.
don't
These aren't
have
riding the
people
limo.
just like pulled over to the side
This
of
is
the
the
road.
guy who bought like an 80s limo, fixed it up, and now it's his side gig. And occasionally he's like, hey, you need someone for a 6th grade dance? I got a stretch limo just
I'm
for
the
you.
guy.
I'm your guy. He's got the little hat
Mary
on.
Stuart Masterson is
Right.
ready to go.
I
like
didn't
Lloyd-
know they did dances for 5th grade. We didn't do that.
I know, neither did I. But I
Yeah.
gave him credit for wanting to do it. in a limo. I thought that would be kind of fun. But I don't know.
I know,
like
I
a
know
Lloyd
a guy
Christmas
with
kind
a-
of thing.
I know a guy with a black SUV that he does this for a living. He drives people to the airport mostly and stuff like that. But maybe I can hook you up with
If he
something.
wants to have a bunch of 5th grade boys, that they didn't want to go with the girls, they wanted to go all boys.
Oh.
We've completely gotten off the rails here. We're 5 minutes into the show. I apologize for that, but obviously the big news of the day as we tack back to the Patriots.
Happy
is
schedule release day
happy-
for those who
I mean,
celebrate.
for
I
those
am
who
not one
celebrate.
that does, but
You abstain.
I know a lot of other people.
You're
that do.
agnostic when it comes to the schedule. Just tell us where it is. I know there's been some reports out there. Everything will be coming out at 8 o'clock tonight, along with all the schedule release videos that our whole team put a ton of work into. So we're excited to
I'm excited to see
get
that.
out there. Yeah, you haven't
Yeah.
seen it yet, have you?
I haven't seen it, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that, and I know that it's a lot of work has been put into that by a lot of people in our department, and it should be cool. And I think in general, I used to be into the schedule. Now I'm not gonna lie, it's mostly just about how can I structure the next 6 months of my life more than anything. And I understand that is nobody cares. So ultimately, I do find it interesting how much juice this gets, and I do think it just is because people are starving for any sort of football in the middle of the summer. But in general, for people like us, this dictates our schedules.
Yeah, it's
you
like
know,
it's like getting your work schedule. It's like,
Right.
all right, here's your assignments. that you
Right.
gotta
It is.
do. Right.
yeah. But for fans, I do find it interesting. But with Brady coming back, I had one thing to say about that. I think for all, I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me personally, I felt like the way that he left, there was such little closure and such little appreciation for what he brought to this city, organization, everything. So it's nice to finally get to kind of close the book a little bit and say thanks and say, give him the deserving send off. I hate to this day that Tom Brady's last moments as a Patriot are walking off the field, losing to the Titans in the playoffs at home, and what was maybe one of the most just underwhelming playoff performances of the whole era.
Good word.
Yeah.
Good word.
It was a rock fight. It was an ugly game. They didn't play well, obviously, and just to go, it felt like he went out limping as a Patriot, and that stung.
Logan Ryan pick 6. Like
Yeah.
I think we were riding down the elevator maybe like when that happened. I don't remember. Did we see that live or was that when we saw it and
we
then we're
saw
like,
it
let's
live.
go?
We saw it live, and then
That was it.
Yeah, and then we decided, okay, that's our cue to
Yeah.
go downstairs and break up the post game show.
Start
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
I agree with you though, and I
And then
think
COVID hit.
oh,
And then he announces that he's leaving on social media, and it's very disconnected. Everybody's very disconnected at that time with COVID anyways. So there just was never a moment or a period of time where fans could say thank you, fans could honor him. And the other thing is just it's great that he does want to be a part of the Patriot organization again, and he does want to be associated with the Patriots and really put himself back into that mindset of being a lifelong Patriot. So I hated how it ended. I'm glad this will hopefully rewrite it a little bit.
I kind of found myself thinking a little bit on the Tampa Bay game when he came back here this morning, and just now as it's a couple years in the rearview mirror, just of what a cool experience that was. Like that we actually got to see that, like just once, but still, at the time it was you're so wrapped up in everything going on with the team and Bill and Matt and Tom and Tom, we're gonna go back there, all the kind of noise that went with it. But now it's like in retrospect, it was just like, what a cool thing that actually happened, that he got to come back here and play, that it was, a pretty entertaining game. And, just I don't know. I don't know if it would be, of course, his career is what it is, and nothing could add more to that. But just what a cool thing that he actually got to come here and play a game, and compete. I think that's kind of a fun thing now that's happened. But plenty of people weighing in on that and the schedule release and everything. We also heard from a couple guys today. Evan and I heard from Devon Godshaw, who talked a little bit about getting everybody back basically on the defensive side of the ball except for Devin. And then we got to hear from James Robinson for the first time. So he talked a little bit after signing here, coming off a kind of a weird year last year, going from the Jags to the Jets, coming off a torn Achilles. Spoke a little bit about that as well. So, I mean, he's a little bit of a wild card this year. I'm not sure exactly, how you look at him, if he's coming in to replace Damian Harris, or if he's just kind of, all right, compete against these two rookies from last year, see if those guys have made any strides, and you kind of have a veteran there to at least provide some insurance. But we've been talking a little bit about the running back position. There's some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, there is. I think people always are interested in running backs for whatever reason. And Ty Montgomery, I think, is another name that is kind of this mythical creature that we all saw at training camp. So if you weren't out at training camp, you didn't really get to see a ton of Ty Montgomery in live action. And there was some good things that he did last year, especially catching passes out of the backfield. It felt like he was trending towards the third down back role being his until he got injured towards the end of preseason, and then obviously in week 1 against Miami. But with James Robinson, I think what's interesting is that his contract structure basically guarantees him nothing. He's not guaranteed a roster spot. He's not guaranteed a role of any kind. So he's going to earn it here with the Patriots. And as much as it's not to pick on James Robinson, but you would like to hope that Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris kind of beats him out for opportunities. I think that he's sort of a backup plan to those two guys, especially Pierre Strong. Like you really hope that this year is the year that Pierre Strong, maybe he had that Damian Harris rookie redshirt style season, and then he comes on this year and is a factor. If you're turning to James Robinson and Ty Montgomery because those two guys didn't pan out, then you kind of missed on the draft picks, right? Yeah. And there was a lot of guys in the 4th round that went around Pierre Strong that are productive players, that were good players. And then Isaiah Pacheco obviously went in the 7th round. Oh. So if you look back on it and you get nothing out of those two guys, I'm pre-mad. I'm mad about something that hasn't happened yet. But no offense, I just kind of feel like James Robinson and Ty Montgomery shouldn't be major factors. If everything works out the way you want it to, those guys should be. One of them will be on the roster as the 4th running back, but in general, it should be the 2 second-year guys that are taking on the load left behind by Damian Harris.
Absolutely. Well, we got some emails rolling in. Shoot us our email, webradio@patriots.com. Give us a call, 855-PATS-500. Be here for the next couple of hours. People are writing in about schedule leaks and all that kind of stuff. You guys know we're a little bit in a weird spot to talk about all that stuff, but yeah, we'll see. Everything will officially come out tonight, and then we can all chat about it next week. But I would just any particular games you guys are looking at on the schedule in terms of.
Not for me, but Evan and I were talking before the show started, and I agree. For me, it's all about the holidays, and there's a cycle that goes around where Christmas and New Year's fall on the weekends, and it was last year like that. It's this year like that. So. The full slate is on Christmas Eve. There's 3 games, I think, a triple header on Christmas Day. So, obviously, if you're not playing the Thursday night game heading into Christmas weekend, you're going to be playing on Christmas again. So that's all I would care about for me personally. I already know who they're playing. I know where they're playing. And, we did find out about the Indianapolis game in Germany, but we knew they were playing in Germany for one of the home games. It's the Colts. And otherwise, I'm not all that interested. Thanksgiving last year, they have a chance to play on Thanksgiving this year with Dallas because they have to go to Dallas. Yeah. We'll see. That's all I would care about is holidays.
Yeah. That's that's us. What are those days going to be? I'm just curious too. I always look for like the division games and how does it kind of break up. They've had the last couple of years has been weird where they've had like Miami has been the bookend. They played the Jets in the middle, and then they bang out Buffalo twice in December in the last. So that's kind of fed into how the season's gone the last couple of years. I was curious too, just about when do you got to go to Buffalo? When does Miami got to come here? When do you have to go there? Are you playing in Florida? In the heat, or are they coming up here in the cold? Maybe both. But the division games are huge, and of course Aaron Rodgers. And I think what was revealed the Jets opening game I think was revealed. I think.
Is that official?
Yeah.
Monday night game, Jets-Bills?
Jets-Bills. Opening Monday night, week 1 Monday night.
And I did see the opener itself, the NFL kickoff game.
Lions-Chiefs. Right.
So Lions getting a little bit of, I don't know. It's like I heard somebody say
Lions
they're getting
some
love.
But
Lions
are getting
national,
some love.
national games, I guess, that's
that's a big window. The NFL opener, and I know they don't want to put necessarily the best possible matchup on that because it's going to be a great rating anyway. But they also don't want to put a lousy one. And I think there's probably some optimism in Detroit that they haven't had in recent years. You want to make sure you capitalize on that. Like, let's just say, for argument's sake, you wanted to put Lions at Chiefs in prime time. Well, I'd rather do it in week 1 than week 9 because all due respect to Dan Campbell and the Lions, there's a chance that they're 3-6.
Right.
Yeah.
Going into week 10 or something like that. You don't want to run that risk.
Yeah,
So week one, there's a lot of optimism heading into that game. Like, think about last year. It's the Rams are playing because they were obviously defending Super Bowl champs. It was a great matchup opening night. It's Buffalo against the Rams. If that Buffalo Rams game took place in week 12, it was would have been terrible with no buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's with the primetime game slate. I always look at that because it tells me the teams that the NFL trusts are going to be good. And they trust the infrastructure of the organization and the team and the roster is going to be good enough that you can schedule a December primetime game and not worry that it's going to be Russell Wilson 2.0 and you're going to have this horrible Broncos team on primetime 6 times in the second half of the season like last year.
And they had to cycle them out of there a lot.
Yeah, so that's, I think, something that's going to be interesting. Now, I know there's more flexibility with the flex scheduling and getting those games out of there, but you always wonder certain teams that you're kind of on the fence about. If you're going to give them primetime games because they have enough juice to be in primetime, do you do it early just so that you don't run into that? Because I can see a couple of teams, the darlings of the offseason, just like the Broncos were last year, being a Broncos. I mean, one of those teams, it's not going to work out. Like, somebody's going to...
Detroit, to me, is a prime candidate for that. Now, I think that they have some pieces, and, I think they added some intriguing guys in the draft, too. But I'm not going to be stunned if they're like stumbling around, same as last year,
I mean,
or
they
worse.
did here. They looked pretty bad.
They
here.
looked totally inept in
Yeah.
that game.
I thought, Paul, I wanted
Of
to
course,
highlight
the entire team was out, but that's another argument.
something you said though that I thought was insightful, as you're known to do. Just the fact that it's the Colts that you're losing, because it's a big part that you're going to lose a home game for the Patriots to go to Germany, and you're of course excited to go to Germany. It's a home market now, all that, but you do lose a game here in the revenue that you get. But it being Indy, with Anthony Richardson at quarterback, a little bit of transition going there. If you're going to lose a game, you wouldn't want to lose Kansas City. You wouldn't want to lose Philadelphia. Those kind of prime marquee games.
I think it was the worst game on the home schedule. Out of the 9 home opponents, I think that was probably the one. You go in Washington,
Commanders,
New Orleans, Indy.
Yeah.
And I look at the 2 NFC teams as teams that you don't see regularly, even though New Orleans was just here a couple of years ago. The way it worked with that extra game, they lined up with the NFC South third-place team. I think that ended up being New Orleans. So, by happenstance, I would have chosen the Colts. The only thing about the Colts, to me, that is at all intriguing right now is Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
And when he plays.
Josh Downs.
And I do think by that point of the year he might be playing.
Yeah,
I don't
he
think
could be.
I don't know if he'll play right away, but I think by week 12 you might have him in there. So that would be exciting that if we got to go all the way over there, that at least like
make his
Anthony
debut.
Richardson will be there.
And if you're
playing.
I could see that, like, let's say he starts playing, maybe plays 4 or 5 games. And like, remember Deshaun Watson when he started to play in a little bit, and it only took him 3 or 4 games before you said, wow, this guy could play. And if that's like that, then maybe we'll look at it and say, oh, I wish that Colts game stayed in Foxborough.
To get the dust off the old Bill Belichick versus rookie quarterback stats that always get thrown around, thrown about. But yeah, the Commanders was one for me too. That was just kind of. But as you said, you don't really get to see those teams a lot. But I mean, the Chiefs. That now will be a home game now that they're not going to play. I mean, I know Kansas City's playing in Germany as well, but that game will be here, so that's good news. Philadelphia will be here. You mentioned the Saints, the Chargers too. So you're getting a little cross section here of some good young teams, I think. And of course, going to Jerry's World, which I saw a report that there's a Thanksgiving, like they're going to play somebody on Thanksgiving, not the Patriots. So
I saw Washington tied to them, but I don't know if that was one of the ones that was announced.
Yeah. So
we're
all.
That's why we're not getting into, like Mike said, we're not getting into what is official and what isn't official because we don't know. We're not going to touch it.
That's right. But a couple other things, housekeeping things. So we did. Patriots PR officially announced that we'll get some access to a couple OTAs in a couple weeks. That went out last night, so that will be, I believe, 2 weeks from today will be the first time we'll get a glimpse at them, and then Friday, and then I think the following week. So scheduled for 3 practices. Last year, I think we only got 2 OTAs, and then we got 2 mini camp practices. Mini camp will be then the following week. So a lot going on. I mean, it'll be, it's like the off season, but you're also like we're meeting with guys.
Yeah.
The schedule's coming out. They're having a food truck party out there as well. Me and Evan tried to walk.
Yeah.
What's this?
I know. I think
No,
it was,
not for us.
No, it was kind of we tried to cut around because now the new media area is down over at E2, so we just went to walk out and around in front of football, but it was all blocked off, and they had a bunch of food trucks there. So I assume this is one of those spring player activities,
Yep.
team building.
All right.
Team
Okay.
bonding.
Get a
I thought
sandwich.
the special people upstairs were given access to something, especially food.
Looked like there was an ice cream truck too.
Guy,
Oh,
food.
I could go for some food right now.
But why didn't you order something?
I know I forgot, and it's just we do have a wonderful new service here, but
We do have a wonderful.
I didn't know
new
about the
service.
pork mac and cheese. That sounded like a little bit much for me today, but let's Rob called right in, so I'm going to jump over to the phones here just a little bit early here, and let Rob from South Carolina check in. Hey, Rob, what's going on?
Hey, how are you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. Well, I'm going to probably do you proud, Deuce. Mainly the reason why I called in is because I'm actually kind of upset by the fact that they're going to celebrate Tom Brady in the first game of the season.
Yeah, right?
Can I ask, with all seriousness, why would that in any way upset you?
Okay, so I'm sort of joking, Paul.
Okay, all right, okay. I thought you were, but then when you didn't laugh after it, I was
Yeah,
like,
Deuce is the only one
I know.
that doesn't
No,
want
it's
coming
ridiculous.
back.
He's dead. Go do it in Tampa.
So
because I'm on a panel here with there's three of us, and two kind of just have no more use for Tom Brady. So I never know. I would think that I'm in the majority of people who respect Tom Brady.
Wrong.
But I'm not.
He's winning me back. He's
Oh.
winning me back.
Ever
But-
since, I don't know, about 8 a.m. this morning.
Yeah, no, when I saw that come across my phone, I was like, oh, come back,
Okay.
Dad, please.
Let bygones be
Right.
bygones.
yeah.
right.
Okay.
Well, there's
I
kind
apologize
of a
for
mixed
not picking up.
emotions. Like you're excited because of what he did for the franchise, and then you kind of feel like the tilted lover because he left. And I was really upset when he left simply because he had the chance to do something that very few players get to do in this day and age, which is stay with the team that they've drafted them. And so that was my primary fault, if you will, with him leaving. And the main thing was he was the one that changed, not Bill Belichick. And I'm not trying to defend Bill Belichick. I'm just saying, over the 20 years, the only one that changed was Tom Brady. So that was where my source of frustration came from. But I am glad that he is coming back and he can retire, hopefully, a Patriot.
Yeah, I would agree with Rob's assessment that
Thanks, Rob.
Brady changed and Belichick really didn't, or at least more than Belichick did. But I think that the decision for him to leave was Belichick's,
Yeah.
more so than Brady's.
Kind of related. Elle from Wisconsin had emailed in just saying maybe Brady's last game would have been so tough and disappointing if the GM could have built a team around him rather than throwing scraps and hoping Brady could pull them across the finish line. Thank you, Elle. But I mean, that's. I mean,
I can't be upset about things that happened 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's
Anymore.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
That's why I feel like with the Tampa game too, I just feel like I have a different perspective. Not that it got me all worked up or anything. I mean, it certainly did in the lead up to it. I mean, there was a lot on the,
Yeah.
you just.
Yeah,
it
remember
was
Fred used to
exciting.
get mad at me because I was just so tired of.
I know.
Oh, Brady's
Brady's
coming back.
Brady.
I was just I.
That week was a long week of that.
Well, because
But-
it actually was a long 4 weeks of it. Once
Right.
the season started, I think
There's
it was
a build
week
up
4.
to that.
It was
yeah.
It
coming.
was just forget about the first 3 weeks. It's all
Yeah.
about this game, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
The 19 thing though it is interesting, in terms of the team around him, because I don't think I truly do not think that the 19 offense was due to a lack of trying. They just didn't try correctly. They drafted N'Keal Harry in the first round.
Yep.
They
Wasn't that the Sanu year too?
Yeah, they traded for Mohamed Sanu at the deadline. They drafted N'Keal Harry in the first round. They signed Antonio Brown, which we all remember in the beginning part of the season, the first month. They just didn't hit on the moves that they made, and you can blame the GM for that. That they poorly evaluated the talent or whatever you want to call it in the 19
Yeah.
draft. But if N'Keal Harry ends up being the player they thought he was going to be, then they used the asset. They tried to get him another weapon when Gronk retired, and they drafted a receiver in the first round.
Demarius Thomas in the. I mean, not that he was still Demarius, but they
Yeah.
were
Thought that
throwing
counts.
stuff at the. They were throwing stuff at the wall. That's why
it didn't work.
No,
Right,
it
it just
didn't.
didn't
It
work.
didn't. And I mean, the Mohamed Sanu thing can still make you sick. Trading a second-round pick for that guy. You know,
See, he's been in the news.
oh, has he?
He wants to
What
come
now?
back.
He wants to come back. Not here.
He was done 4 years ago.
To the league.
Well,
Wants to go come
I
back to
remember
the
him
league.
being like, oh, you know, he just was so confident when he got here that it was all going to be great, and the
Well,
juice
I
would be
remember
worth the squeeze.
The
That was
Baltimore
great.
game. Wasn't the Baltimore game that he caught a bunch of passes?
Yeah,
There was
he came
one.
out of the gate pretty well.
Yeah,
It was Baltimore. I think you're
but
right.
that was a rough loss, though. I forget.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was one of the
Wait,
bright spots of that game.
Am I mixing up years?
No.
Seasons?
It's not like
No.
you, Paul.
I think you're right.
I don't know.
No,
I'm-
that
I'm
sounds.
con-
You're
I'm
dead on with
confused.
Sanu in 2019.
I remember him
but-
catching a bunch of like insignificant 8-yard passes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but he had like a lot of them, and everybody was like,
So-
"There it is, Sanu's back." And I was like,
Against Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken, he got injured. He injured his ankle at some point when he
Yeah.
got with the Patriots, and I think it was on a punt.
returning a punt.
Yeah, because they had to put him
Oh,
back
that's
on
right,
punts,
that's right.
and he injured his ankle, and at that point
That was it.
he was already not. He's already at like 75%, and then that.
I think you hit on it pretty good, Evan. Like, because it's not that they didn't try. Like, I think that there were a lot of things you could point to that. Well, they drafted a first-round receiver. They traded a second-round pick for a receiver. The Antonio Brown thing blew up.
Yeah.
It goes for me as always. Goes back to the draft. There was just the
Right.
picks that you missed on, and Harry being a primary one. Although, at that point, what were you expecting him to come in and do? And I mean, even when you're still going to get AB early in the season, it acknowledges like we don't expect Nikhil. But by that point, they had to because he was hurt, right?
Right.
Like,
But
so
even
it's
if N'Keal Harry
unfortunate.
ends up being a fine player, like even if he ends up being Sony Michel or Isaiah Wynn or one of these first-round picks that they've had recently that hasn't panned out in terms of being a 10-year Patriot, but was just somebody that
gave you some games,
gave you something,
yeah.
then it's totally a different conversation in 19 because the defense wasn't great, and I know that a lot of it was fool's gold early on in the season for that defense, but I still think that defense was good enough that if the offense had been pulling its side of the rope, that they would have been a more competitive team down the stretch than they were.
Well, El from Wisconsin writing back in. Sorry, Evan. He says you're wrong. So let's see. Talking about 2019, I'm not going to give BB credit for trying. He had been a coach for like 20 years. We don't get a trophy for trying to draft the same receiver that we
Listen,
missed
when
on.
when I'm critical of Bill, then I'm questioning the greatest coach of all time, and who am I to do that? And then when I say that he tried, then I'm not critical enough. So I don't know what you want me to say.
Well,
like,
they took some swings at that part. I mean,
yeah, they took some swings and they
Ignore
missed.
the noise.
Yeah.
Ignore the noise.
Yeah.
I was just looking up Sanu from that year, and it was right. I think we all had it right.
Yeah.
He had 10 catches for 81 yards in that Baltimore game. He had 26 catches
So
as a
yeah, half of
Patriot.
them.
Like, it was just this one day where he caught a bunch, in my opinion, of insignificant short passes while they were trailing by
Right.
2 scores.
Yeah, there were a
like
lot of
constantly. They were never really in.
underneath.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
never really in that game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just looking at the rest of it, before that, it was 2 catches, 2 catches, 3 catches, 1 catch, 2 catch, 3 catch, 3 catch, and he missed a game.
But
Like,
Nothing.
the
yeah,
ankle.
just nothing.
I do remember standing in front of his locker when they first made the move, and him talking for the first time, and he was the juice and the squeeze,
Yeah,
and he was
yeah.
like, "I'm here, and it's gonna be great."
Don't
and
worry. We
I got
you.
this. And honestly, at the time, I liked his game for them. Like, I thought that he would translate
me
well
too.
as a smart, shifty route runner, good hands. Like, I did think that he was a good pickup for them. He just didn't have the juice anymore. He just
Yeah.
didn't have it.
I mean, kind of. I mean, would it be a bad comparison to say somewhere in the realm of Juju of kind of a bigger slot
Comparison? Is that what you
comparison?
just
Did I
said?
say comparison? Apologize.
Wow.
Same in the world. I mean, Juju got a little
Maybe.
more juice on the hoof. I think, like
What-
running with the ball.
Let's hope
Yeah.
that Juju has more left in the tank.
No, I
Yeah.
know. I'm not
'Cause
trying to.
I thought he looked like a guy who
But
was
big slots,
pretty close to
can't
done
really,
then. Not known for their
quickness, but
outstanding
kinda straight,
athleticism
yeah.
necessarily, but
yeah.
good route runners, strong. Sanu was a good player in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Just not for us.
Even in Cincinnati, I think he had some moments in
He
Cincinnati.
was good in
right?
Cincinnati. I forgot about those early years in Cincinnati. I got overshadowed by kind of him being on Atlanta during Super Bowl 52 and all the commentary going on, or Super Bowl 51, sorry, all the talk going on with him on the sideline being like,
Right.
man, they got Tom Brady over there. Like, they seemed to
He knew.
know. They knew what was coming.
Matt Ryan didn't.
Oh, poor Matt Ryan.
I don't feel bad.
Let's speaking of Ryan, let's jump to Ryan in Virginia. Hey, Ryan, what's going on? Ryan. Hello, Ryan. Oh, I hearted that one. That one.
Stop eating sand.
Oh, he's on the other line. All right, we're hopping over. Hey, Ryan, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, are you good?
Awesome, great. Off and on listener, first time caller. Just really quickly want to shout out Bill Murray. As a William Mary grad, I hope fourth year's the charm and he finally cracks the roster. But I got two things for you. I don't know if you guys saw, but at the top of the show, they announced that week 1 will be Eagles-Pats. So I thought, what a great way to honor Tom Brady.
Who announced that?
Leak, not an
lose
announcement.
for the Eagles in week 1.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. I'm not telling you it's wrong. I'm just saying I haven't heard anybody announce that.
So there's some reports that's the game, but not.
I'm
an
talking
announcement.
about like the league.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, nothing official.
We should get those.
Yeah.
You
Anyway,
should-
it'll
go
be a
ahead.
good game. The other thing I just wanted to touch on, you guys mentioned at the top of the show, was the running back room. We didn't draft anybody, so that's what got me a little concerned. It was just that, that's the position with the most wear and tear. And knowing that our running back room right now is Stevenson, great back, got a little banged up towards the end of last year. Robinson, who's coming off a big injury, and then two kind of rookies who haven't really proved anything yet. So just wondering, if there's any level of concern there for you guys, and if we need to bring in anybody else.
Nope.
Oh, thanks for the question.
Not to pick on the clock.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, look, if Montgomery and what's his face, the new Robinson
Robinson.
aren't like healthy.
When Deuce hosts is just
What's
Like,
his face?
who is
Just
it? What's that guy's
completely-
name? We just talked to him. If
Deuce
those guys
hosts.
aren't healthy or can't get back to what they were hoping they might be, and the two rookies from last year don't really develop, and all of a sudden,
if all the things go wrong,
if you
then
feel
maybe
like
you're in trouble.
then maybe you're in trouble.
When
But
and Ramondre,
Gets
gets
hurt,
hurt, then
and
okay,
then-
now the
right.
wheels have really no.
now we're to JJ Taylor.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that at least on paper they have a good combination of young guys that they've expended draft picks on, and Ramondre is clearly the 1A piece. But I don't know. I haven't completely ruled out Robinson and Montgomery. I think with running back, you kind of acquire these guys, put them on the roster, and just see how it plays
Yeah,
out with
I agree.
competition and injuries, and
They're so
don't try to get too
replaceable.
attached.
I
Yeah.
do think they're replaceable, but I think Robinson, in his ability to catch the ball too, I think as a complementary piece, maybe take some of that burden off of Stevenson that he racked up a lot of touches as a receiver. So I think that Montgomery, I'm not really expecting anything from, not because I don't think he's a good player, but I just think, at this stage, we haven't seen him for so long healthy. It's hard to just pencil him in for a role.
Yeah.
If Fred likes to say those kinds of guys, that's gravy. If we show up in training camp and we see him like he was last year, darting around and looking like he could fill a significant piece to the puzzle, great. But I'm not expecting that.
Yeah, I think that there's maybe just I understand that we didn't get a lot of exposures to Pierre Strong because he didn't play much in regular season games, but there's some juice there, and I just think in the West Coast trip last year in Arizona and Vegas that I saw enough that at that position of all positions, those guys are so replaceable, and I really feel like Pierre Strong is somebody that with more opportunities and more touches, I think he's going to flash a little bit more. And even a guy like Kevin Harris, so I think the biggest thing with him was ball security, and he did put the ball on the ground a little bit in the summer, and that's going to concern them. But if he fixes that, and he's somebody that can at least run between the tackles and get you some yards as a power back on first down. So I never worry about running backs. It's just they'll find somebody to run the football, and it's more about everything else.
Do you think that they're actively trying to get away from having a specific third down back, and they're trying to maybe acquire players that, not so much Harris, but I almost feel like between Ramondre, Robinson, what's his face, right? Montgomery.
I do think that
and
that
Strong.
was,
All those guys are pretty balanced.
I do think that was a big part of it last year, and I think we saw it in the summer a little bit in preseason games where it was, okay, this is going to be Damian Harris's series in a preseason game. This is going to be Stevenson's. This is going to be Montgomery's. You saw them out there on first down carrying the ball, on third down being candidates to catch the ball. And I think they do want that. However, I think that when they saw it actually play out that way, I wonder if they're looking at it and saying, this is why we didn't really do a lot of that in the first place, because I think Stevenson ended up really wearing down.
Yeah.
Playing too much.
Because he had to play too much.
Yeah, I think that there's all the play calling tendencies last year got messed up because he was calling the plays. But the years before that,
the whole show without taking a shot.
The years before that, they were very predictable based off of personnel. They have Sony Michel in the backfield with James Devlin in the power I, and like 70% of the time that was a run. And
I heard a lot of criticism for Josh McDaniels with regard to exactly what you said.
And then the other 30% was play action off of the run. So you knew that you were getting into that sort of game where they're going to be under center. It's going to be either power run or it's going to be play action off the power action. And that was just the way that it was going to go. And then last year they ditched the fullback. They become a little bit more unpredictable in theory. It just didn't work out that way because of how the sequencing of the plays went about. But I think maybe you hope with Bill O'Brien that they're able to mask it a little bit more. But I also think that statistically their early down offense was really good because they did run the ball well, and then the play action was effective because they married it up and they had the whole thing going. So I don't know how much that predictability necessarily really hurt them in those offenses because they were so productive off of play action because of how good they were running the football behind James Devlin. So yeah. I don't know.
I just wonder if it's a little bit of something that you're trading off because James White was just so effective as a passer, and those guys that we have all can catch. But are any of them really moving the needle like James White did as a receiver, where it's just something to be accounted for?
I do think Montgomery has the potential to be more like White than the other guys because of his background as a receiver. I think he's a better route runner. Because I understand what you're saying, Mike. There's one thing, I think Ramondre Stevenson has every bit effective catching the ball as James White is. Like soft hands, ability to actually physically catch the ball. But I think setting up linebackers and, reading the zones and doing those kinds of things, I think James White was special in that regard.
Yeah.
He didn't do it because he was so much faster than everybody or, obviously not bigger and stronger than everybody, but he understood how to set linebackers up, find those matchups out in space. And I don't think Stevenson or Harris last year, Damian Harris now, were as effective like that as James White was. But they could catch the ball.
Yeah, but you think of some of those
it never looked like that.
Like some of those wheel routes, remember, from James White up the sideline where Mac hit him, just streaking. I mean, those aren't really Ramondre's kind of plays. Like you're not going to hit Ramondre downfield so much. But I don't know, just something to wonder.
And I do think Montgomery could be like that. We didn't get a chance to see it.
Right.
And we never saw from Pierre Strong, too. Everybody wanted to make Pierre Strong that guy,
Pierre
right?
Strong didn't really do a ton of that in college.
No.
And I wrote his profile last year and talked to his coaches about it, and the coach actually put it on himself. It's like, we probably should have dialed up more, but we didn't want him to be one of these guys that was getting all of these touches and getting worn down that way. But I think that everybody looked and said he's not the biggest guy. He can fly. Oh, he's got to be a third down back when he really didn't have that on his resume coming in.
Yeah, that was 100% a projection with him coming in, and I think a lot of the people you talk to, because of the skill set, just assumed that was the goal with him, was to be third down back, and I still think he could do it, but
he's got to learn it though.
Yeah, like the big thing for me is with the third down back is literally third and 4, and you can't always throw the ball down the field. Like if you can get somebody matched up underneath on a linebacker, or you can sit down between a zone or something like that. That keeps you on schedule. That moves the chains. And I think when you don't have a mobile quarterback that can pick up 3rd and 4 by scrambling, you kind of have to have that safety valve or that outlet, when Mac gets under duress or gets pressured, blitzes or whatever, that it's just a dump off to the running back and you can get 5 yards on 3rd and 4 and you're moving the chains and you get a new set of downs. They missed that last year. I think they had it early with Stevenson. It felt like he was able to do it until he started to wear down a little bit. But I think that they missed that just security blanket, just dump it in the flat on 3rd and 3 and makes a guy miss and all, we're still moving the chains even though the pass is a shorter pass in theory.
It is just kind of interesting the things that they're missing. Like and by choice, but they don't have a fullback anymore. They don't really have a blocking tight end anymore. They don't really have a traditional water bug slot receiver kind of guy. They, like it's just a lot of the thing, third down back, like a lot of those things you could go back through all of it. That's good, Paul. You could go back through history and kind of name what guy that was in almost every different version of the Patriots offense that you saw over the last 20 years. And right now they don't really have those pieces. I don't know. It's just interesting. We'll see where Bill O'Brien takes it. But phones are stacking up.
And one more thing I wanted to add about the third down back. Yes. I think a lot of people, like, they hear us say, one of the things that third down back really has to excel in is the blitz protection, right? The blitz pickup. And it's not so much. I mean, it's a big part of it, physical, obviously. But I think most guys can stick their nose in, get in the way enough to give the quarterback enough time. Certainly a guy like Tom Brady. Yeah. Like, he didn't have to.
It's like a want to.
You didn't have to take
right?
him out.
Yeah.
But to me, it's more understanding when and where the pressure's coming from, and the experience that I think it takes to sort of pick up on that. The subtleties of the games that they play and not getting fooled.
Yeah.
Sure. And I think that's stuff that probably
we saw
would be bigger obstacles for a guy like Peter Strong than the physical act of getting out and
it's tough
converting a 3rd and 4, as Evan said.
Right, especially in the old blocking system. I don't know what it's going to look like now with Bill O'Brien, but a lot of the times those running backs would have dual reads. So they'd be reading two, okay, we're 4 over 3 on this side. If this guy comes, and I have this guy, but if this guy comes, then I have to take the nearest threat to the quarterback, so I actually have that guy. And you have to make those determinations post-snap, and then they also have full scans, right? So you might be put in blitz pickup, and all you're looking for is that 2nd or 3rd level guy that is coming that you're not expecting. So it's not a pressure look, but they send a late delayed blitz up the middle, and now you're responsible for going tackle to tackle and scanning through the entire line of scrimmage to find the guy that you're supposed to block. So those are the reasons why a lot of those guys redshirt and don't get on the field early on, is because of that. And it's a difficult way about doing things. I don't know how they did it last year, to be honest with you, but that's how they've done it in the past.
Used to say it all the time. Like, if you go back, everybody says, well, that's the way they do it in Foxborough. You are running back and you sit out a year. And I say, well, that's not necessarily the case. If that's the kind of running back that they project you as, you're probably going to have a redshirt year. If you're going to be a James White, Shane Vereen type guy, they're probably going to indoctrinate you a little bit slower. If you're a guy that they project as a true bell cow ball carrier,
up the middle,
I've seen many guys come in and step in right away and get significant carries as a rookie.
Ridley, right? Ridley was a big
Maroney.
Yeah.
Ridley and Maroney did it. I mean, they didn't necessarily have to be the guy.
Yeah.
But they will allow you to carry the ball, because I think it's pretty obvious.
Like
it's
Jonas
more of
Gray. Not that that's
it's
a
more
great
of an
example,
instinctive position where you come in, you get the ball, you avoid the guys trying to tackle you.
Right.
That was like James. That was like James Robinson today. Like, what do you think your game is? Like, I don't know.
Just
Get the ball and
play
run.
football. Yeah, I think it's interesting too with the
like even Ben Jarvis Green Ellis came off the practice squad, and I think he ended up getting 1,000 yards that year.
Yeah, those guys back then though had the fullback. And I do find that it is interesting, and I remember Ramondre talking about last year that he actually prefers to run without a fullback because he's so instinctive and has that feel between the tackles to just kind of, like Le'Veon Bell used to, just kind of wait it out and then pick the right spots. But for a rookie coming in, when they were just follow James Devlin, like he's going to hit the hole and you're going to find the hole through him.
We left out the most obvious, most recent, Sony Michel.
Right.
Was like a huge part of your offense down the stretch and in the playoffs as a rookie.
And it was
just running the ball.
Yeah.
Behind your
follow
fullback.
the battering ram. Now you have to. There is a little bit more of a read involved, right? Toss crack. There is a little bit more of a read involved now without a fullback, because you have a little bit more say as a running back about where exactly you run lead ISO with the fullback. You're hitting one spot, right?
All right, let's.
You can go back to the phones now.
I'm gonna jump to the phones. They've been holding on here. We got Willem from Philem. Hey, Willem, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? How you doing?
Good. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, okay, no problem. Anytime. Do I say who do we play week 1? I think. Do y'all know already?
No.
Do you want me not to say nothing?
No, you can talk about it. We're not like we can't really.
You could say whatever you want. It's just not official.
Confirm anything or
Okay.
So you can say. I mean, you can.
The Eagles week 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
How you feel about that?
I think if that's what it is, it's a big matchup.
I know they were playing Philadelphia at home.
Yeah. I mean,
matter to me what week it is.
Well, I would say to that, like, I mean, I think there's something interesting in that the Eagles are getting a lot of love right now. They're kind of the darlings that the Patriots were at one time, and you know everyone loves their drafts and what they've done, and for good reason. And they just paid Jalen Hurts, and they seem like the team that's not quite Kansas City yet, but is right there with them. So I think it's just no matter when they play, I think it's an interesting kind of old guard, new guard kind of game.
I wish it was a different game.
It's a measuring stick game.
Because
that's one of the best teams in football.
Yeah.
If you want to say that were a one-hit wonder, maybe they won't be as good as they were last year. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not banking. I'm not banking on that. I think what you've seen with Philadelphia over the last couple of years was Jalen Hurts sort of getting the job definitively, and they went 9-8, squeaked into the playoffs, and were very competitive in Tampa in that playoff game. And then the next year they picked up A.J. Brown and went to another level.
Yeah.
Along with picking up some defensive pieces on short-term contract, like guys like Hassan Reddick, James Bradbury. They added to a defense that was already talented. And now I think they're one of the best teams in football.
Yeah. It's a bad matchup out of the gate.
Yeah.
It just is. Like that offense, their mobile quarterback, RPO, college-style offense is really what it is. And then defensively, you just mentioned the bookend edge rushers like Riley Reifers, Hassan Reddick right out of the gate. Like that's going to be throwing some people directly into the fire. If the Patriots win that game, I would be elated. Like, wow, you came out of the gate and you won that. That's a statement.
It's May 11th, and he already has them under 500.
I mean, but on paper, like that's just a terrible matchup. Yeah. Like, regardless of when the game was played, whether it was week 1 or week 16, just on paper, that's a horrible, horrible matchup. And I think that at least later on in the year, and I hate to do this, but like maybe somebody gets hurt in Philly. I don't wish that upon anyone, but maybe like you later on in the year you get lucky and like AJ Brown is dinged up and he's not 100% or something. But out of the gate, you're not gonna get that. So I don't. Yeah, if that's what it is, I don't like it.
And Mike, it's just two more things, and that's it. Okay.
Yeah, go.
Okay, one to that caller that called last time that might have thought I wasn't listening. I just want to put this out there. I listen to Patriots Unfiltered from the time you get on, from the time Patriots Unfiltered get on to they get off. I was gonna say something smart but I said no, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna let that ride. But I just want to make that caller known. I ain't got the earphones in there this time. You just hearing me through the phone, so I hope I sound better this time.
You sound great. You sound great this time.
I'll leave it at that. Last but not least, Evan, are you really trying to piss me off, really? For 2019, when we got N'Keal Harry, are you really? Dude, you was on my good side. Are you really?
Evan says something positive, and now he's getting
the greatest coach of all time when he drafted that bum. Are you serious? He spent more of his time on IR than playing in the game. Are you serious?
I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm getting yelled at about.
Come on, Evan. You seen Tom. Tom was pissed off, man. He said, "Look,
because Tom scouted N'Keal Harry and knew that he wasn't a good player."
He was a bum.
They missed on the pick. No one's denying that. No one's disagreeing. But the idea of drafting a receiver in the first round was to give Tom Brady help. It didn't. They picked the wrong guy. I don't know. What are we arguing about?
Evan, they picked the wrong guy on purpose because they hated Brady.
Are you the same Evan that was going off not too long ago talking about they took a guard and was going all off? Remember that?
What are we arguing about right now? He wasn't a good player.
Are you serious? What are we arguing about?
Yeah, I don't even know.
All right, all right, Evan. You still my boy though, but I'm gonna leave that alone.
Willem and Phil bring it.
It sounded great.
He always brings the passion.
We appreciate you.
Thanks. Well, I know. I never said N'Keal Harry is a good player.
You just said that it was
the idea was
there. It was clear that they had an idea of improving the offense, and just everything they did didn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
That
was
they deserve criticism for picking the wrong guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you feel the heel turn on that one, on that call, as he was talking about his phone, and then all of a sudden he was like, "And Evan," and they were just like,
"You were my boy."
Like right at you.
I'm not allowed to say that they tried by drafting N'Keal Harry. You just can't even. If it's not negative involving that guy, then it's just you get killed.
Oh, let's head down to North Kakalaki, see what Todd has to say. Hey, Todd, how are you?
Guys, I want you guys to get on Deuce now, since we've already talked to Evan. Deuce was on another show, and he was like Debbie Downer. Yeah. He was. God, he
was I different than I usually am?
Made Hart sound like the positive
I know
guy.
Hart was all over me about my negativity, but I didn't.
Oh, you were bad.
Was I
you
bad?
Were bad. I didn't even know
what
was
did you
say.
Dude.
I thought it was like Eric Scalabino.
I said they were going to go 9-8.
I mean, that's optimistic.
building on that, that's going to be my question.
Yeah.
What do you think the record will be this year? And give me one positive thing that's going to lead to it, and maybe one thing that's going to hold them back. And that's it. That's all I'm going to want. I don't want too much negativity, Deuce. Because yesterday was bad.
I don't like doing records either, but I think that they'll be similar in record as they were last year. And the reason for my optimism is Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, right.
My reason for negativity is an overall lack of weaponry and explosiveness on offense.
Yep.
That's a fair point.
Yep. I agree.
Is that general and broad enough?
Their schedule this year,
or what?
It's one of the hardest in the league.
It's one of the hardest in the league. Whether you look at Vegas, win totals or like advanced metrics or whatever, they have a top 5 hardest schedule in the league by pretty much every measure.
And I think that when we look at what the Patriots have done, and I do think that I'm encouraged by the draft because I think they got, especially at the top of the draft, guys that can help right away. At least I really, really hope so. If they haven't, then we're having a different
2019 again.
A different problem and a different conversation down the road. Okay, I think there's reasons to be encouraged by that, but that doesn't necessarily people automatically look and they say, well, they won X one year and they added this, this, and this, so they're going to win X times 3. And it doesn't work that way because the other teams have done that too.
All changed too, yeah.
And you have to play some teams that you didn't have to play last year that are good. So in other words, maybe if you played the schedule that they're playing right now last year with what they had, maybe they would have been lucky to win 5 games. So now if you're adding, they've added to that what they had last year. So instead of 5, they win 7 or 8. That's it's impossible to go just year to year. And the other thing is what we were talking about with the schedule at the very beginning. Detroit is on the opener, right? Because right now, people are saying, if I had to make a pick for NFC North champ, I'd go with the Lions. And I think I might do that. Yeah. I might feel that way too.
Sure.
I ain't going to be surprised if they're like 6-11.
No.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the
schedule
never
makes
know.
It tough. My bottom
because
line, you never know.
And I know this is hard to believe because I've been pretty negative at times about this team this offseason, but I'm actually cautiously optimistic that they're going to be better than people think. I think that angle of it, and from a mindset standpoint, I do think that Bill still thrives off of that. Like, I think he can use that, and I think he can thrive off of that. And I keep going back to the fact that they won 8 games with everything that we now know that was going on offense, and they still clawed their way to 8 wins. So with Bill O'Brien, it should be better. If the schedule was easier, then I would predict a lot more wins than I think some people would. Like, I'd say they could win 10 or 11 games.
Yeah.
But the schedule isn't. So
yeah, I would look at last year, right? Just specifically last year, I think that they probably would have won the Raiders game if Bill O'Brien was the coordinator, because I don't think they would have been behind 17-3 in the first place.
Right.
To have to make the comeback that they did, before ultimately losing the game. I think that's an example of how it could be better, but it doesn't work that way because you don't know what the Raiders are this year.
Right.
And you don't know what how that's all going to unfold. You are studiously looking at your phone.
Well,
Mike.
I wanted to bring up the Mike Giardi tweet from a few days ago, which we didn't talk about, and I just thought it was interesting. Bill O'Brien's impact already being felt in Foxborough. Talked to a source who said of the receiving group, for whatever reasons last year, coaching, talent, attitude, there were a lot of bad plays on tape. This year, that won't be tolerated. Do it right, or you'll be standing next to him watching. I just thought that was interesting for
I saw that tweet.
A few
didn't
different
really
reasons.
understand it.
No, I know, and that's why
I don't.
I mean, there are some things, and I think the thing on tape, which we talked about last year during the show, where it was just like, Evan talked the spacing being completely off, not knowing where you're going. I mean, all those things, and we can talk about which guys were kind of the prime suspects with that stuff consistently, but I don't know. It was less the content of it that interested me, Paul, and more just like, this is the message we're getting out right now, that stuff won't be tolerated this year, which not surprising with Bill O'Brien, but I thought it was
my thing is I don't think it was tolerated last year. And I think that when we were sitting here on various post-game shows wondering, where's Kendrick Bourne? Where's Devontae Parker this week? Why does Devontae Parker have 100 yards this week, and then the next 3 weeks combined he has 30?
Right.
Yeah. I think they weren't tolerated last year. And unless you're telling me that the biggest culprits of not doing what they were supposed to do were Jacoby Myers and Jonnu Smith, and they've been replaced with guys that will do what they're supposed to do, I don't really know how that works.
Yeah.
I think last year the biggest thing we talked a lot about the spacing and things like that. I think the problem with that stuff was that it just never seemed to get corrected because it never got better on film. Like, so if it was, okay, we had these issues in week 6, but then by week 12 we were better at it, then it's like, okay, well then the proper corrections and the proper coaching points are being put through the players, but it just never, they never got it down. And I think the biggest thing is when you look at offenses.
That's a good point. And I think O'Brien will fix some of that stuff.
I think offenses like this, especially when you tell a player that you're running a 5-yard out, it being a 5-yard out matters. It being a 6-yard out is not what we have in the playbook. The playbook says it needs to be a 5-yard out. And those types of things, I go back to what Logan Ryan said the other day about Bill, and that he had that ability to look around the field and know what everybody did wrong or right on a play and correct.
Unless you ask him about it in the postgame.
Yeah, correct 8, 10, 12 guys maybe on one play on both sides of the football. And that type of ability to see it live and in real time is so valuable that I think a guy like Bill O'Brien can do that because he coaches offense and he knows offense inside and out. So when they're out on the practice field and, someone runs a 4-step slant instead of a 3-step slant, he's going to say, hey, so-and-so, this is supposed to be in 3, right? Like, you're supposed to break on 3 steps here. And the reason is because when you didn't break in 3 steps, well, now this guy's route is now hugging into your route, which is now bringing this defender into your pathway. And that's how those kind of domino effects happen. So I'm hopeful that those little details are going to get cleaned up. He's not going to make these players exceptionally more athletic or faster or more explosive, but if they can be better at those little details, like how many times last year did it feel like it was 3rd and 7 and then they ran a 5-yard pattern and you're just like,
that's
what how do you
that's
even
what
do
I meant.
that?
Like, I didn't really understand the way the tweet was worded, because I agree with Evan in this regard that Bill O'Brien will set up an offense and he'll structure it in a manner that makes much more sense. We've already seen it. It's not like something we have to sort of project. I saw him here. I know he can set up an offense. So, and I didn't have that confidence with the guys that were doing it last year. Fairly or unfairly, I didn't think Matt Patricia and Joe Judge were equipped to do those sort of adjustments. But in terms of like accountability, and they'd never fixed it, but I think they never fixed the structure of the offense. They never fixed the system itself. It wasn't because of guys doing the same things over and over again and just continuing to play. Otherwise, we wouldn't have spent so much time wondering where specifically Kendrick Bourne was. And my contention all year was Kendrick Bourne doesn't play more because at least once a game when he plays significant snaps, I notice him doing something blatantly wrong, whether it's lining up in the wrong spot, moving when he shouldn't move, or knocking Jonnu Smith over on a crossing route.
I was going to say, or colliding with people.
I saw him do something wrong on a consistent basis. He kept not playing.
Right.
Then he would go back and play and make a mistake. Then he wouldn't play, and people would say, "Where is he? He's Jerry Rice. Why are we losing this dangerous weapon?" To me, that was why he wasn't consistently playing.
Yeah. I just remember I can't remember. It was late in the season. I can't remember the exact game, but they ran a route combination to the right side where one guy ran an under and one guy ran an out, and they just ran right into each other. And I was like, there's no way that when they put that play on the whiteboard that's the way that it looks. So either somebody had the wrong play or the wrong route, in that sequence of play, or there had to have been some sort of a disconnect. And it wasn't when they put it out on the whiteboard, they drew up a play where two guys were going to collide.
And I would put Thornton in there too. Like, there were times where he's like coming across maybe in a zone and the throw is a little bit, and it looks like, well, that's a terrible throw by back, and I'm going to surprise you here. I don't always think that was the case. I think that there were times where he was expecting him to sit in a zone or stop his route, or
he had that problem,
and he would just keep going. He would drift and get himself in trouble, and it just didn't look right. There were a lot of stuff in between the hashes with Thornton, I thought, last year. It didn't look like that's the way it's drawn up.
I wonder in like college, like I don't know how much sitting in zone versus running away in man is like how much they really talk about that.
You know me, like I'm throwing terms out. Like I don't know if that was. It just didn't look right.
No, you're 100% right. I felt the same way, and that's the old cliche is you sit in zone and you run away from man. Like that's the way that it's done, and you're coming over the middle. You got to find those soft spots, and you got to know the distribution of the zones underneath and figure out, okay, this is where I can sit. Running a shallow crosser across the middle of the field when there's 3 zone guys sitting right, you're just asking for your head to get taken off. Yeah.
But Mike, we can all agree that the setup of the offense and the organization of the offense will be much improved.
I like that positivity from Paul.
I love Billy.
Let's grab one of these calls here across the pond. Jordan, thank you for holding on. How are you?
Yeah, good, gents. How are you?
Good.
You just touched on the kind of the coaching side of it on offense. I think it was the owners' meetings. Belichick said stuff about special teams, about how he didn't think coaching was the problem. We were number 1 in special teams 2 years ago, but so how can that be the problem last year for why they were so bad? Which doesn't make sense to me. But in terms, it looks to me as if he's blaming the players for last year's performance. He's changed kicker, punter. We signed a special teams guy in free agency as well. But on offense, we've changed the coordinator, and the players are basically the same. How do you guys see how Belichick thinks about the blame for last year, players versus coaching?
Yeah. Thanks, Jordan. I don't know if you guys want to jump on it, but I do think that look, Patricia's gone. Joe Judge is supposedly helping out with the special teams. So I don't think it's entirely just like we're just going to let the coaching stay the same. I don't know how much of an impact, that actually has. But, and I do think we were talking about on the show on Tuesday that they've added a lot of special teams type players in the draft and in free agency. So
but they've also retained a lot of them.
Yeah, so it's a big mush of, guys like Slater and Cody Davis, but – also bringing in Mac Wilson, bringing back then signing Chris Board.
Like Chris Board really was the only free agent addition in that regard. Everybody else was retained. And I do think that he thinks that it was more players than coach.
On special teams, for sure.
Cardona.
They're all back.
They re-signed him too.
And now, and again, and I've said this many times, just so I don't get it blod back in my face, I do not count specialists with special teams.
Yeah.
Like, Nick Folk and Jake Bailey weren't responsible for allowing 3 touchdowns. Like, I understand the kickoff itself.
Right.
And that was circumstantial because your kickoff guy was unavailable. He wasn't on the he wasn't actively on the field the last whatever many games, 6, 8 games. So someone's going to kick off into the end zone this year. That's different. I'm talking about the guys actually covering, the guys running into the punter, the guys allowing they're all going to be largely the same guys that are doing those roles. Hopefully, Amir Speed or what's Bolden's first name?
Isaiah Bolden.
Isaiah Bolden.
Zay. He goes by Zay.
Zay?
He does go by Zay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully, some of these guys can,
make a bet.
Marte Mapu. He pushes Mac Wilson off the roster.
Right.
That to me would be a positive development, but we'll see.
Yeah, I do definitely agree with the caller though that they feel that special teams was personnel largely driven by personnel issues and not coaching. And we've observed Cam McCord and obviously have talked to him. I think he's a good coach, and I think with special teams you really need to understand the nuances because it's a very unique thing. Like I gotta admit, like it's a blind spot for me. Like I don't understand the difference between L3 and L4. Like I couldn't tell you, but I could tell you the difference between this route, that route, and this coverage, that coverage. It's its own world. And I do think that Cam McCord has the knowledge, and I think that he's a good teacher because he teaches us. Like we ask questions because we're dumb, so we literally ask him questions, and we're like, hey, like teach us, like what is the difference between this and this? And he'll sit there and give great explanations to the media. So I'm sure that he gives great explanations to the players. I think last year for some reason that it carried over from offense to other phases. To be honest with you, that the attention to detail just wasn't there.
I think that's a good
I feel
point.
Like Bill in general, and this is unfair because I don't know for sure how he feels. I think Bill in general thinks all problems are more personnel related and execution related. It's not necessarily like we had this bad game plan and we didn't have a good play. Like, no, go out and execute the play and it'll work.
Yeah.
That's my
I think
favorite.
that's how he thinks.
Yeah.
Poor execution. Like, not to go on a Celtics rant, but Missoula loves to say that. Loves to say.
Except for when they have 18 seconds left in the game, and it was great execution, except for they didn't get a shot off.
Right. And, he's sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, the execution in that situation could have been better." And it's like, for the Celtics, I look at it and I say, okay, talent on the floor, you probably have it. Like, you got two all NBA players, you got Marcus Smart as one dude. Like, you probably, but with this team, when sometimes it is talent. Like, sometimes you got to look at it and realize that they're not out executing the other team because the other team has better players than you do. So I think a lot of those players got changed out in some spots.
Yeah, it's just like what keeps popping up to me is just, when it's these guys that I think, you're referring to, the Raleigh Webbs of the world, these Brendan Schooler, we didn't even mention him as, so it's like all those guys. It's going to be interesting how this all plays out here in camp, and maybe we'll get a glimpse in a couple of weeks of what the special teams
and that's
are doing.
what, I think that those kinds of guys, now Mapu obviously will be on the roster. 3rd round picks don't get cut unless they do something wrong. But the 7th round picks, can they earn jobs over 4 or 5 year veterans that have been largely just playing on special teams?
Yeah,
I think that would be a good sign if they're thought of that well.
Well, I got some stuff for you guys after the break. Plenty of great emails that we have yet to get to. Also, I talked to Zay Boland's coach at Jackson State yesterday. Well, the guy that replaced Dion. Great conversation. So I'll tell you a little bit about that after the break. We're gonna have some food. We'll catch you after this.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G Ultra Wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G Ultra Wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
oh no!
Replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season. And there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week. So head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible!
No way! As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance!
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Want to get into the game? Get coached up at Dean College. Equipped with exclusive academic partnerships featuring the Patriots, Revolution, Providence Bruins, summer baseball, and more, our classrooms are set up for success by learning directly from the pros. Dean College has programs in communications, sports management, business, and marketing with unprecedented hands-on experiences. Our students take what they learn in the classroom and put it right to work in the marketplace. At Dean College, our students don't just play games, we run them. Visit us at dean.edu.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G Ultra Wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G Ultra Wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season. And there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week. So head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible!
No way! As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance!
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Want to get into the game? Get coached up at Dean College. Equipped with exclusive academic partnerships featuring the Patriots, Revolution, Providence Bruins, summer baseball, and more, our classrooms are set up for success by learning directly from the pros. Dean College has programs in communications, sports management, business, and marketing with unprecedented hands-on experiences. Our students take what they learn in the classroom and put it right to work in the marketplace. At Dean College, our students don't just play games, we run them. Visit us at dean.edu.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
And now, great moments in history.
And yet I was still nice enough to invite you along.
Yes, it was very nice.
Yes,
you
it
were
was
the
very
third
nice.
wheel? You got our table.
No, there were
for
like
us?
6 of us.
I mean, the place was
I was
packed.
going to say, Fred was the you-know-what block.
Why are you mad at me?
Why? He says with the big grin across his face.
Why are you so upset
You know
about
what you
all
did.
this?
I'm upset at you.
Why?
Yeah, just you.
All of our lives are open book. Why is it yours?
Yeah, why are you
Open
special?
book. You purposely do these things.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. He
I
admits
purposely
it.
talk. We all talk about things going on.
You make things out of thin air that are not there.
What's thin air? You were with a lady friend. What's thin air about that?
No, a lady friend implies that there's something going on.
And
she rode. That's the end of it.
Dude, look like a lady.
But it doesn't have to be.
It is, because I told you yesterday, and I don't like it when you make me repeat myself.
Sounds like my father.
Exactly.
You think I'm screwing things up for you? Just tell me.
No. You've been screwing things up for me for 12 years, buddy.
Did you specifically tell him not to mention it?
No, I knew he was going. As soon as he walked up and saw us, he had that stupid grin that he's got on his face right now.
I can so see it, too.
I won't mention it again, but when something happens, could you let us know?
Nothing is going to happen.
You know, like if they hook, if they decide to.
Nothing is going to happen. You effing morons. I'm going to go with Andy.
Wait, why are you yelling at me? I didn't do anything. It's
because you're joking around, too. You
I
know
egged him on a little.
Yes, you do.
I admit it, but this is all Fred.
Okay.
What'd you guys eat? Did I miss that part?
I had swordfish.
That's another great moment from
Swordfish. Fred used to get swordfish during the show?
Not here.
Oh. What were you guys? Was that a draft show or something?
I don't know.
No.
Gets it
That was a
delivered from
PFW
Davia's.
classic where Fred saw Eric on a date and crashed it at a restaurant.
Oh, that's great. And now it ties into this email that I was sitting on from Jake from Chicago that I wanted to read. And I think Paul might have to be the one to provide this insight. But hey, guys, new listener.
I don't like the sound of that.
I always hear the references to Eric, never listened when he was on the show. Is there a specific show that is must listen to truly understand the references you all make to him? I feel like I need even just a clip to truly appreciate what he brought or took away from the show. Anyway, love the show and the entertaining perspective you all bring. I mean, I think that clip was pretty good, Paul, but if there were some other Eric moments, I think
Eric
the rejoiners paint the picture, I feel.
Yeah, Eric, obviously worked here for a long time. I would say Andy and I were much more into the Patriots and football in general, especially football, because Eric was into the Patriots, but not like as passionately as we were in terms of the league itself. So that was, for starters, he kind of carried himself as being above the fray, shall we say.
Intellectual.
Yeah. I was trying to be nice. He, in doing so, I think he opened himself up to a lot of those kinds of stories.
Well, it's funny because
criticisms.
I was talking to Evan about it too. It's like you kind of become a character on the show, and Eric certainly was a character, but he was also a great guy, and all the things we pick on him for. But he was
the
also
only thing
really nice
of
guy.
the show that is really completely 100% authentic is as soon as the show is over, Evan does actually just watch video. He just watches tape. Watches all 22 all the time. And if he's not doing that, he's at a Bruins or Celtics playoff.
100%.
Or walking his dog.
Walking my dog. Yeah. But my first interaction with Eric back in 18 when I first started, he was standing with Aaron Salkin from PR, and so I thought he was in PR. I didn't know who he was, so I went up to him.
That's the perfect thing that would piss him off.
Right. So I went up to him and I asked him if he had a roster.
No, you didn't.
And he mocked you.
And he looked at me like he wanted to punch me in the face.
I can totally see.
I can see it too.
This is the first I've ever heard of
he have
this
a
story,
little
and I know
newspaper hat on?
exactly what happened.
And he was like,
"With his Scully cap on, and
why are you asking me that?" Or like something like that. And I was just like, "Oh, sorry. Like I thought you were standing with."
Whereas if it were Andy, or Mike, or myself,
oh no, it's Aaron.
we would have been like, "Yeah, Aaron. You have a roster for Evan?"
No, he looked at me like
why would you assume
I'm not in PR?
that I
Peasant.
am in PR?
I write long form features.
Yeah, and then so I remember I walked away from him. And I recognized because I realized I asked the wrong person, so I walked away from him.
Just
and
staring at you like he wants to fight
I
you.
asked somebody, "Hey, who's that? Who's that guy over there? I've never met him before." And they were like, "Oh, that's Eric Scalvino. Like he writes for Patriots.com." And I was like,
did you go back and apologize?
In PR, no.
I apologize.
Good.
Mr. Scalavino, I just wanted to apologize for earlier. I didn't realize who you were.
Fuck you.
Yep. There it is. Hey, let's go back to the phones here real quick before we dive into the email. Sean in Vancouver. Hey, Sean, how are you?
Hey, guys. Mike, I have a couple of things.
Okay.
Now, Paul, earlier you were talking about running backs and how they might not get on as much as a rookie because of the responsibilities in the passing game blocking schemes. Now, I wonder if that extends to tackle. Now, we've mentioned that they didn't draft a tackle because they're happy with who they have in the room, and I wonder if it also extends to the experience like Riley been in the league for a long time. Maybe he's going to be better at picking up those type of things when it comes to protecting on passing plays. I don't know if that's their thinking, but that might be one thing.
Yeah, I think in general, Bill doesn't love giving really big roles to rookies. I think he's been sort of reluctant to do that periodically over a long period of time. But I would say with tackle, yeah, I think ideally you draft a tackle in the first round and he's your third tackle. But I don't think that's why they didn't take a tackle, because he's not going to play anyway, because now you just have the same problem next year if you don't want to play a young tackle.
I do feel like tackle to some degree, it's just like you kind of block the guy across from you.
See guy, block guy.
Yeah.
That's offensive line play.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously slides.
No disrespect to my son.
If they put two guys over you, you got to, sort that out and things like that. But for the most part, I think, 80% of the time, it's just like if you're a left tackle, the guy's lining up over you. Matthew Judon's across from you. You're blocking Matthew Judon.
Yeah, and I do think, Sean, I do think that Bill probably looks at that and says that's asking a lot of a young rookie tackle to step in week one and just perform. But he's done that. Matt Light,
I was just going to bring him
played
up
right out of the chute in 2001 as a second-round rookie, and obviously performed well. And Solder ended up having to play. I think the idea going into that year was for him to sit and be the third tackle, but then Vollmer got hurt and he had to start really the bulk of the season. I just feel like, in general, Bill would rather not have to rely on rookies. I think he's a big experienced guy.
Yeah.
Now, my other thing has to do with the draft. It's a weird kind of observation, but there were basically 17 players invited to the draft party, and we saw the first 9 players
17
come out, and they all.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second, Sean?
Yeah, sure.
Because a lot of people have said that there was 17 people that went to the draft party.
Right. There might have been more invited. Right.
No, there was countless more invited. There was 17 that said yes. Sure. So I don't want to make it out to be, in other words, that Keon White, who I just had a really good conversation with his coach, was one of the 17 people that they chose to go. No, there was like a lot of people, and most people said no. They didn't want to go and do that.
So there was the first 9 that showed up. They all hugged Goodell, right? and then you had a few, who didn't show up, and then you had, when it came to 17, you had Gonzalez come up, and there was no hug. It was just a handshake, and then a couple after that, there were hugs again. So is there something going on with that? Like the Patriots don't get along with Goodell, obviously, but does Gonzalez?
Patriots get along famously with Goodell.
No, I don't think they called
I don't
Christian
think it's that
Gonzalez
deep.
up like, we just drafted you, and you better not hug Goodell.
No, I don't think Christian Gonzalez, from the 5 minutes that we got to sit with him, doesn't seem like a hugger to me. Doesn't seem like
I wouldn't read anything into it at all.
No,
but
nothing.
I can tell you that the Patriots, both Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, have a very strong relationship with Roger Goodell. I know that probably upsets some element of Patriots fans, but it's true. They get along very, very well.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay. All right. That's all I got.
That's all you got? All right.
Those are some good details, though. I do not watch
who
to
hugs?
see who hugs and
No.
who shakes and who lifts him off the
Dab him
ground.
up.
I know that's a big one.
And Mike, you had said before we went to that break that you had talked to Zay Bolden's
Zay Bolden, Coach Taylor.
Coach T.C. Taylor, who I do remember. Was here as a undrafted rookie 100 years ago, and
2002.
You said you had a good conversation with him?
Yeah, it was fun. Just, obviously Deion Sanders had moved on, but, got a little bit of insight from them just on Zay and the kind of kid he was. And that information about Coach Taylor being here in 2002, just like, you don't realize it. And then the assistant AD said, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but then filled me in on that. So it was fun just to, I said, look, I know things have changed in 20 years, but, just from your experience here, what kind of things do you have to say to Zay and, what to prepare himself for. So it was good. I mean, we all do these profiles, and I really kind of enjoy just getting to talk to the coaches and just, of course they're going to be excited for their player and it's all going to be positive, but it's also just, fun to get to see these coaches who work with these players and are now getting a chance to see these players go on and, achieve their dreams of at least being drafted. You don't know where they're going to end up, but it was cool. I think we're wrapping them up. We all are just about done.
Yep.
Evans went today on Jake Andrews, so yeah, I think
and
we've done a good
I
job.
wrapped up Keon White today, and I had mentioned that I had talked to Brent Key, who is the new head coach at Georgia Tech. He took over on an interim basis early last season, went 4-4 after a real tough start, and earned the full-time job, and obviously spoke very highly of Keon White, as Mike said. Most of these coaches do that. But it was funny, like he had talked about, the same impressions that we got of that video clip of how serious he was. And he said that he was taken aback by it when he first came, when in 21, when Keon White came from Old Dominion and transferred to Georgia Tech. He was taken aback. I was like, what's up with this guy? What's his problem? He goes, is he an a-hole? Like he was thinking to himself, and he sort of got to know him and sort of understand what makes him tick. And he's like that all the time. It's authentic. That's who he is. He's very serious, very mature. He said he's older as it is, but he's like more mature beyond that, even his advanced age. So this is kind of the seriousness that you get. But he said, don't mistake that for like a lack of passion,
caring.
Yeah. He is very passionate about what he does. He was great at sort of holding the locker room accountable.
Willie.
On defense, especially last year, he would set up, one of the things that he told me, he would set up these contests. They would have 2 out of 3 matches, short yardage on Tuesdays at practice. And when the defense lost, it wasn't just, we lost today. No, he made sure that they were accountable. So he felt like that was really good for him. This is Key talking now. It was good for me because I'm trying to earn the respect of this locker room, and I had this guy really doing everything he could to make sure that everybody was doing whatever they could to win, and that helped me win over the locker room myself. So I think there was a lot of respect there.
I like hearing that. I mean, based on some of the stuff we've been talking about of just, generally everybody
Leadership,
just being
accountability.
right? Like those things.
I love
by the
doing
way, I'll
that.
just tell you that Key was the offensive line coach at Alabama from 16 to 18-ish. So he was heavily involved with recruiting Mac Jones, and obviously went against Christian Barmore in practice and said, I don't know how you deal with those two, Barmore and White, down the road someday if they were, hanging out over the A-gap as sub-rushers and in sub packages as the 3 technique inside.
That's the idea.
Let's go. Let's
You
go.
got Judon on the outside, Uche on the other side.
Yeah.
It's a good front.
Chasing down these mobile quarterbacks.
I'd like to let you know about Keyshawn Booty, but I'm striking out. Like, I'm having a real hard time getting
Call up
anybody.
Kevin Falk. Apparently, he's got something to say.
I'm not really. I mean, all due respect to Kevin Falk, who I love.
Yeah.
Love. I'm not really interested in that kind of element.
Gotta call in your ever connection.
I do. I love the. I love doing these draft profiles though, because it's just great to hear what the kid is like and the story and how these guys all got to this point, and especially nowadays with NIL and all the transfers that we've had to deal with, and tracking down coaches that actually coached these guys and got to know these guys a little bit. It's always good to get some of that background. This is what. Obviously, scouting departments do this before the draft, and we do it after the draft. But it's always fascinating when you hear stories like Paul's story about Keon White holding everybody accountable at practice. You hear these little things about these guys that the Patriots drafted, and you're like, it's kind of Patriot-like. That's very. Yes, now I get it.
The maturity thing too that Paul said, because that was the same thing they said about the kicker Ryland.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned it before, came out of the womb mature. These guys are serious guys. They're into football.
Yeah, I had actually. It's unfortunate. I had an interview scheduled for after the show today with Mike Loxley, who is Maryland's head coach.
Yeah.
And about Chad Ryland, who I already wrote the profile on anyway at this point, but. He unfortunately had to cancel that. So,
you want to play a game? Got a little game here.
A game.
Would you like to play a game?
I
Aaron
knew
from
he would
Kentucky.
do it well.
Yeah, there you go. Tic-tac-toe. So Aaron from Kentucky's got a game over-unders. Bailey Zappi starts a hay.
I'm going to say over. I think in the NFL nowadays,
somebody gets hurt.
Well, that would be somebody specific. I'm going to say under.
I mean, last year, how many teams had their quarterback play all 17 games?
Crazy.
Like Josh Allen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Mahomes?
I'm going to say under, though. Max got it this year.
I like the confidence.
2023 draft picks that don't make the roster. 2. As we say 2.5. How about 2.5?
Over under 2?
Over under.
Oh, I'm going over.
I'll say over.
They drafted 5 guys in the last 2 rounds of the draft.
12 guys altogether.
Yeah.
Tyquan Thornton touchdowns 4.
That better be over.
I think that's a good prediction.
Yeah.
I would say 4 on the money. I'm gonna cheat.
Gotta have some long ones. Tight end TDs 10 between
combined.
Gesicki and Hunter Henry. I like that number. I'm gonna go over. I've been predicting a resurgence for Hunter Henry this year, and I think Gesicki will.
I'll say
chip in a
over
few,
because
too.
I think that's a pretty modest number for two
What-
tight ends
he had
that can
10
catch the ball.
the other day. Yeah. Zappy TDs. We're staying on the Zappy front here. Zappy TDs 3. So he gets.
I'll
I
go
think
under
he's going to
there.
start,
Under.
but he doesn't get it.
Jeez, okay.
Special teams TDs 2 with Marcus Jones and Demario Douglas maybe.
I'll go under there.
Under. Ooh,
I'm gonna go over.
I'm going to go over too.
I think special teams be much better this year.
Because they got new players. Paul gives nod before the Pats before the 4th twice. I don't. Have you given a Patriots nod in the last 2 seasons? Prematurely?
Detroit, I gave without question. That
Maybe
game
the
was
Browns.
over on like the second 4th down stop. Right, and they had like 4 more 4th down stops along the way.
Just kept. Board got interviewed, and they were like, "What? Anything you remember from that game?" And he was like, "Nah." But I was hoping it would be like, "Oh no, we kept going for a 4th down." I'm like, "Hey, you got the best special teams player in the league. Like, come on, get me out there."
Probably, if he didn't get signed by the Patriots, he probably would have said, "Yeah, none of our players played."
What's so weird about that game? Just like mini sidebar here. What's so weird about that game is that. You would expect that would mean that the Lions are analytically driven, right? Because you're going for it on 4th down. But then they took a running back and an inside linebacker in the first round. So it's like, you can
pick a side,
right? And you can tell that Dan Campbell and their brain trust in Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, have to be constantly at odds because Dan Campbell's like,
I'm feeling this one.
I'm
feeling it. I'm feeling it.
We're gonna tear our kneecaps or
He's
whatever.
the epitome of I'm going by my gut.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling it.
Go to the yard.
Yeah,
Benny,
I'm
feeling it on this
we
one.
gotta run the ball. We gotta get a guy that can stop the run, and we gotta control the linebacker. We're gonna get Brian Urlacher in 2013.
It is odd though. Detroit in general, they had a really good offense last year, and they had 2 running backs in Swift and Williams that were very productive.
Williams is had
right,
16
yeah, he had a million
touchdowns,
but they were very productive.
Yeah,
and they said, "Well, we'll get rid of those two guys, and we'll get David Montgomery, and then we'll draft Gibbs."
Just kind of just shuffling the deck, the chairs on the
weird.
deck.
Screams
Titanic.
Dan Campbell.
Weird.
Be a nerd or don't be a nerd, Dan Campbell. Make up your mind.
Last one. How many weeks does Mike drop an expletive out of frustration for the team? 3.
Under.
3's high. I'm going to say under.
Yeah, thank you.
But it would definitely be more than 1.
I appreciate it. I haven't dropped one yet here. So
we should get a deuce cam for the road games when we're sitting in here.
That would be. Well, we can't.
You got to see there are different things beyond just the Patriots' ineptitude offensively that set him off last year. It would be great.
Oh, I was very.
he sits right where you are.
His Mac reactions when Mac is yelling at the sideline, I'm sure.
And then someone will be in here, which will really get under his skin at that time, and he's trying to write, and I'm as I like to say, semi-retired, so I don't do any writing during the game anymore. And Mike is feverishly, and I've been there, I've done it, I did it for 100 years, and feverishly trying to get this done. So when the start of the show comes, you can be focused and have your undivided, and it'll be some random Mike, what'd you think of that?
I'm just very glad.
Immediately the headphones go on.
I'm very glad that we have the setup that we do, because Mike doing the immediate after the game, but I can't. It's tough for me to do.
Yeah.
It's tough for me to focus on the game the way I want to focus on the game and chart it and do all these things that I do live, and then also be writing like a gamer that's supposed to publish right when the clock hits 0 in the fourth quarter. That I'm very glad that we have the setup we do, because
you got some time to marinate.
And I actually start the style that Mike does. I started doing when we first went
digital.
Yeah, when we first went away from the paper and we started doing post-game shows, I just thought sort of quick hit, random observations. I used to call them random thoughts, and it turned into game observations. What is it called now?
Game observations.
Game observations. But what used to happen to me all the time is the things that you thought were relevant in the game, you'd start stacking up, and then clearly there's a pattern developing. And as you're writing them in such a way that would indicate they won.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they lost.
Right.
And then when that changes last minute,
exactly,
you're the whole tenor of this is now.
Well, it's the Marcus Jones punt return. There was it was a nothing game. There were 2 field goals in it until that point, and then all of a sudden you've got to completely put the biggest point in with you have 3 minutes before the show
starts. But at least that's something that
wasn't a change in script.
That's your top. I'm thinking more along the lines of Patriots did a great job in pass protection, and Dolphins came in leading the league in sacks. The Patriots offensive line completely shut, and all of a sudden there's a strip sack with 3 minutes left in the game that cost the Patriots the game.
Right. Oh yeah.
So now I have 6 points that I've made that are almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
At this point, and what do you do?
That's why I like doing the way that we do, because I get to
talk to the guys a little bit,
fall into that trap and marinate it on a little bit. But
I fell into that trap so many times too.
It's tough. It's tough, but there is a part of me that I love traveling to the games. I would not give that up. I love doing it. But you guys have some fun here too. I always wonder what's going on.
We do have a a lot of fun here, and we have a good, Hardy's really good mixing it with us, and Matt is here with us on Sundays too. But yeah, what I used to like about the road games is I never really worried about writing, because at the time we didn't post right after a game.
Right.
So I never really worried about any writing, because I knew I had the plane. What else are you doing on the plane?
Yeah.
I'm going to write on the way home, and you could sort of collect your thoughts, formulate a plan, and then execute it. The home games were always different, because you're always I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here.
Yeah. Well, inside baseball, but now I try to publish before we're wheels up.
On many times I've been done wheels up. So when the meal comes, I don't have to put my laptop down.
I'm literally in pocket, like ready to hit publish, and the plane is going like this, and I'm like, and I'm
Come
just,
on, Wi-Fi.
yeah,
Come
and
on,
I'm just
Wi-Fi.
like on my hotspot on my phone, and it's like trying to get like make sure that it goes up. Every once in a while, I have to hit up Ferrer and be like, hey, like it's written, but I just need somebody to fill in the all the little boxes and stuff like that. And but yeah, it's a fun. I love going on the road. I love being at the game.
You got to get this. You got to say these things now because you can't say them at home. You have to. Be, I know, Jess. I have to travel.
I tell her all the time.
It's my burden. It's my burden.
I tell her all the time. I can't. It's really difficult for me to do the detail that I want to get into without seeing the whole field and like being there. So watching it on TV to me is a little bit like having one hand tied behind my back because I'm at the mercy of the camera angles that they're giving me.
I just think of the contrast for me between the away games when we watch it on TV and you're stuck with what they're showing you. You're also getting the peanut gallery. Everybody that's in this room is weighing in on their thoughts. So that's, going to color. And then when we're up in the press box, I'm getting what you're saying. You're seeing the whole field. You can watch what you want. If I want to take my binoculars and just focus on one guy for a play, I can do it. I hear exactly what you're saying.
Yep. And then I always go down to the locker room afterwards and like usually off the record, I'll go up to some players and be like, hey, like, I think I saw it. This, like, is this, am I right? Am I on the right? And they're like, usually they like kind of give me a wink, wink, nod, nod. And they don't actually like tell me, like break it down for me the way some might think, but it's good.
I got an email here from Ryan in Atlanta. I liked with Kraft
a good story about
announcing
like that.
Week 1 will be Brady's return. I feel it appropriate to talk a little bit about some of Tom's greatest moments. So, what are your favorite moments, plays from Tom Brady's career that might not get as much coverage as his many Super Bowl comebacks or nail-biting AFC Championship games? For me, the regular season game against the Saints in 2013 when he hit Kenbrell Tompkins in the end zone with 5 seconds left to win the game was the moment that gets me. As Evan says, hot and bothered when I watch it. Sorry for my clunky reading there, Ryan in Atlanta.
Hips, like quick feet.
Good question. I always
Denver
bring up,
Monday night game.
Was that
last second touchdown to Givens? I want to say in the game that Lonnie Paxton intentional safety.
Yeah.
Snapped the ball off the goalpost.
That was that. Oh, what? That was the
03-ish.
03-ish. That was like one of those games where it was like, okay, like Belichick is doing stuff on a different level, and Brady is Brady, but like that was one of those Patriot games where you're like, all right, they are playing chess.
Do you know why they won? Do you want to know why they won that game?
Oh no,
Evan knows what's coming.
Don't ruin my childhood for me right now. Let me remember it like it was.
No, let him. It's always interesting.
They screwed up on the return of the kick, and got bottled up deep in their own end. They mishandled the kick. On
Denver.
Yeah. Now I think that the intentional safety to me
was
not
checkers.
The intentional safety to me was football 101. I think a lot of guys would have done that. Now most teams would have lost, even doing that. I think that was the right thing to do. Most guys would have lost the game because you have a free kick. Let's say you get the ball at the 30-yard line, first down ends the game, and if you don't, you're punting the ball and you're pinning them way down and there's no time left, right? Everything after the intentional safety was completely botched by Denver in that game. I think it was Delta O'Neal, if I want to remember. I think
soon to be Patriot.
I think he might have screwed up. I might be confusing it with a different game, but whatever. That drive by Brady to me is memorable. That throw to. It was like a 20, 25-yard touchdown. It wasn't like a little flip, on a little, in and out route, jerk route. It was like high degree of difficulty. And at Mile High, they never won there. Yeah. Well, whatever, the Invesco field, I think it was at the time. Just an incredible last couple of seconds.
I think my first memory that I always stuck in my head was Troy Brown's game winner in overtime against Miami.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
That one when he hit that throw. First of all, if you go watch back and watch that is a absolute seed. Like
great throw.
Yeah, and he's kind of like backpedaling when he throws it too. His momentum is not going forward. It's not like a typical Hail Mary where the quarterback runs into it or something like that. He's backpedaling and moving to his left, and he still gets enough on it, to hit Troy Brown in stride, and then Troy Brown pulled away for the touchdown. And I will never forget how excited, because they never won down in Miami, right? Like they were on like a crazy losing streak down there, and I just will never forget how excited even Bill was at, throwing things. Yeah,
so his headsets up in the air like Mary Tyler Moore.
Right. Yeah, and that was a big one. The other one that I always love is the snow game against Tennessee. Where him and Moss and that I think they scored like 56 and a half or something like
59 and nothing.
Yeah, that game just was like classic. Like, we're better than you, and we're just dirt stomping teams now.
And that was a rough Patriots year too. Like that was just an outlier for that team in general. I just like 07. It's obvious. Like no one's surprised, but just some of those games, it just felt unfair. It just felt like these guys are on such another level. And the one down in Miami to me. Yeah. Where they still play those highlights. Just a couple of those Moss touchdowns where the one guy like tore his ACL like on the play. Like Moss just like one hands it on his shoulder and like two Dolphin players just go flying and one guy's got like a knee injury and it just like those moments where you're like, this is just, it's not fair right now. They're on a different level. Even like Cincinnati that year where you just felt like they were unstoppable. It was pretty cool.
I don't remember Cincinnati.
Cincy.
I do remember the Miami game was silly.
Moss had
he was
one
just throwing
these
balls like you talk about like you develop bad habits. Yeah. He threw one up like into triple coverage. They had him completely surrounded, and Moss just like jumped up, caught the ball, and everybody like just fell over. It was like when you watch those clips on like YouTube of like the kid that's like 8 years old and everybody playing youth football, and they're all just falling down around him. That's what it looked like. Like they were playing their own game in a sandlot.
And Moss and Gronk are like the only two guys that felt exactly like that. Gronk. Like this is varsity. Like we're on varsity. These are guys that are playing JV. Like that's how I felt watching those guys. But I just remember in 07, like you could tell by Brady's like mannerisms when he was loading up the gun to throw it deep to Moss, and you're watching it on TV, so you can't see Moss down the field, but you're like, Moss is down there somewhere, and he's probably wide open.
Well, that was the one game that I went to in 07, which was actually during the writer's strike that's going on again now out in LA. I'm like, I got to go back. I got to see this team. But I went to the Pittsburgh game, which two famous plays. There was a big one to Moss, but there was also the triple pass from Brady to Moss
to Dante Stallworth.
And me and my sisters were in the second to last row of this stadium. So we are like, so you had. It was more than the all 22. Yeah. It was like the all lower bowl. I mean, you had like all 30,000 down there, but you could just see it develop. Yeah. You're like, oh, you could tell that Gaffney didn't slow down for a second. Right. Like it was it was all right there for you from that high level. So it was pretty cool that game.
So those are a few.
Yeah, a few.
Random,
it's hard to really come up with ones that you don't feel like are famous, though. Because, like, all the games we brought up, I'm like, I remember every single one of those moments. It's hard to be like, there was one gem that you didn't
It's such a product of their dominance that you can, like, I always joke about this. Like, the Patriots seem to have more games that have names.
Yeah.
And, like, if it's not like you could go in a couple of ways to that New Orleans one that the emailer said. Like, that. To me, that's the Kenbrell Tompkins game because it's the only thing Kenbrell Tompkins ever did that was memorable in any way, right? But a lot of people would say it's the Unicorn and Show Ponies game because that's when Zoe lost his mind after the game.
I have to say that game, I was going to give Zoe credit. Like I think that
he lost his mind.
His call of that game-winning touchdown is why I think for a lot of people of my generation that were a little bit younger in the beginning part of the dynasty. That game sticks out to all of us so much, and a large part to Zoe's credit because of the call. Like the call was money, and then obviously I think the Red Sox won a World Series game like that same day. Like it was just a great Boston sports day.
If I'm not mistaken,
no, it was the Ortiz Grand Slam.
Ortiz Grand Slam against Detroit when they were like 5 outs away, 4 outs away from being down 0-2.
Yeah. And that was just a great Boston sports day. And I remember I was in college, and my college roommates, nobody's from Boston in my friend group, and they just hated me that day. They were like, this guy's got Brady, he's got Ortiz hitting grand slams, and like they're all just like wallowing.
I remember in my office writing after that game when I had the Red Sox on, and I was like, I just like started yelling obscenities like I can't believe it. I can't effing believe what he just did, and
I think
that was a lot. That was a fun night.
I miss having athletes like that.
It's
that
funny.
was a fun night here, for all that going on.
It's funny to me that we're all talking about, like I brought up 07 when they were just so dominant, and then you guys brought up 13 when they turned over all their receivers, and you're mentioning Kenbrell Tompkins like being, like it's just. They could win so
average in
many
his
different
adequacy.
ways. Well, it's such a contrast between those two teams. Like, I mean, I know 2013 Patriots weren't, the worst team of the last 20 years, but, it's just they could beat you that way when he had scrubs and they didn't play great the whole game, and then they just kind of pull a couple drives out at the end, or they could roll you for 50 at in 07. It's just such a contrast. So many different things to appreciate.
That Saints drive, the game-winning drive, when people say oh, what's your argument for Brady being the GOAT? And I'm like, other than obviously the Super Bowls and stuff. I was like, he led a game-winning touchdown drive with Austin Collie, Kenbrell Tompkins, Aaron Dobson. Like, who? Like, you don't know who. Like, that's the thing is, look, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but like Peyton played with other Hall of Famers around him a lot. Okay, and Brady
did, but he also did it with Austin Collie and Pete the Waiter.
But those guys were not. He had Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison
before that. But then he had Austin Collie and Pierre Garçon as his top two receivers.
And he's a great player too. I'm not trying to
I know,
crap on Peyton, but it just that Brady had that ability to elevate people around him.
No question.
And I look at again, not to go on a whole Celtics rant, but I look at some of the athletes that we have in Boston now that are great players at their sports, but guys like Ortiz, guys like Brady, these guys just don't have that. Like they don't have. Jason Tatum has generational talent, maybe, but he doesn't have that ability to just pull Austin Collie and Kenbrell Tompkins to a game-winning drive, and those types of moments, or David Ortiz when everybody knows that David Ortiz is about to hit a grand slam and tie the game, and he did it. He just does it.
I felt similarly about the Patriots defense in the early 2000s of not at the level of what Brady became, but just I always had such confidence. I've talked about it with Vrabel too, similar kind of thing. You just knew these guys have been in all these situations, and I just feel confident no matter who they're going up against, they're going to be a tough matchup for whoever they're going to play.
The Eagles Super Bowl is exactly that to me. The first Eagles Super Bowl, obviously. That was a touchdown game, right? They were only up a touchdown.
Oh, and they probably should have been losing by more earlier in the game. I thought Philly really outplayed them in the first half, but I totally know what you're going with this. I never for one second thought the Patriots were going to lose that game, and I never really even thought they were in trouble.
No, and that drive that Rodney Harrison has the pick to basically seal the game, that was a touchdown game, right? And it never once did it dawn on me that Donovan McNabb was going
field goal game. It was 24-21.
I never once did I think that Donovan McNabb was going to march down the field and win the game for Philly.
No,
not
I know.
one time.
Right, and then you felt the same way when Eli Manning got put in a similar situation, at the end of that game, and you're like, all right, just close it out. I mean, everybody just pictures Rodney Harrison intercepting the ball, running out.
But even
no problem.
then, I'll take it on the other side, and sometimes when he didn't do it. So Eli Manning scores a touchdown. They were down 3. I just said, okay, it's 30 seconds left, 26, whatever it was. He'll get a field goal.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe they just threw bombs.
Yeah.
The first couple of plays. Now, one of them, almost got completed. But
that still haunts me to this day.
How can it not?
I just, why wouldn't you just continue to do what you always do and run, these 15-yard crosses with Wes Welker and call timeout, get out of bounds, do whatever you need to do, and let's live to fight another day.
The show, it always takes
a
dark turn when we get 07.
I thought they would, to your point, the confidence that you had in the defense. I had such confidence in that offense. I never thought that game was going to end there. I said, we'll go to overtime and see what happens.
Yeah.
14
Then when they, when they sacked him on the first play, I kind of said, maybe it's just not meant to be.
Yeah. And then against Carolina, Carolina was in that game.
Carolina, I thought, could win the game.
Carolina was squarely in that game, and yet somehow it just felt like they always figured it out. And then, of course, as you reminded me in 07, they did not.
But I'm not going to, pretend. The Eagles game in 04, I never thought they were going to lose. The game the year before when Carolina kept coming back, I thought that game could have gone. I thought that game could have gone either way.
If you're my age or younger and Patriots fans listening to this, go back and watch the Carolina Patriots Super Bowl. It's on YouTube. It's a condensed version of it actually on YouTube, so you don't even have to watch commercials. That is an all-time great game. Just game in NFL history.
And a weird game of a contrast of
no scoring in the first, 14-10 in the second. No scoring in the third, ends up 32-29.
Right. Just it always gets I think because Carolina wasn't like this, they didn't have this great quarterback, or wasn't a great Carolina team in theory, but that's one of the best Super Bowls I think that's ever been played.
I mean, Julius Peppers, I know that those guys I remember hearing from some of the Patriots guys talking about that Super Bowl, just how tough Carolina was. Like they had a big defense, like Chris Jenkins.
Was it Brenson Buckner, Jenkins?
Buckner, Peppers.
They had
Dan Morgan, I think.
Yeah,
was
I think
the
Dan
linebacker.
Morgan was there.
They had some players there.
That defense.
Steve Smith,
Daniel Manning was not Daniel.
No, Muhsin Muhammad. That's what it was.
Ricky Manning. Ricky Manning Jr.
I loved Steve Smith. I still love Steve Smith. Steve Smith was great.
Muhammad had like an 87-yard touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
That was a play that he stiff-armed Eugene Wilson. And I know I've told this story on the radio many times. And he got hurt on the play, and Fred insisted that Wilson wasn't hurt, and he was just embarrassed that he gave up a touchdown and got stiff-armed. He ended up not returning to the game, having surgery to repair a torn groin, I believe. And Fred still, to this day, insists that it wasn't a real injury, and it was just all for effect. He played the long game.
I think that's still the longest touchdown from scrimmage in Super Bowl history.
The touchdown.
Yeah, I want to say 87 yards.
Muhammad.
Just like that. But that was
and
how
that was
game
the first time the Patriots were trailing in something like 10 games.
Yeah.
And the last time they had been trailing prior to that was in the same stadium against Houston, like in November of that year.
And that was in the midst of
that was before I retired.
21 game win streak. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
They topped out at?
Yep. Yeah. That team was dominant.
They kept running out. Let's grab a couple emails here as we roll down the final stretch. From Jerry in North Carolina, just about the rookie wide receivers. If the two new wide receiver rookies show they can contribute to the offense early in camp, can we package Devontae Parker and Kendrick Bourne and a fourth to Denver for Jerry Jeudy and a late round pick?
These are like the trade machine things.
Right.
Like it's just
your trade has been rejected.
We're getting a little wonky.
But we did talk about guys that maybe could be moved, and I know Kendrick Bourne came up, and I mentioned just as we went to break we saw what Shaq Mason just got, another nice 3-year good money deal, solid for him. Maybe a little bit of an indication of what Michael Onwenu's going to potentially get next offseason. You've got all three of these rookies could probably play guard. If one of them really pops, do you swing on Onwenu for something? That's my question right now, maybe as a trade bait guy, and I know you hate it, Evan.
No, I don't hate it.
Well, if one of them pops is the key part of that. Like, I don't want to trade him right now.
Right, right.
But, like, you get into training camp and
somebody has an injury.
City Sal looks like he's every bit as good as Michael Onwenu. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah. If there's one guy out of that 2020 draft class, Duggar Uche Onwenu, who I don't mind parting ways with, it's Onwenu, right? I mean, he's the guard. Like, that's fine. My whole argument with them is just, I said this off air, there's no reason that Kyle Duggar should not have a second contract with the Patriots. Like, he's done everything. He's checked every single box. He's developed. He's been on an upward ascension now for a couple of years. He's a good football player. You drafted a good football player, and you shouldn't let those types of guys walk. I think Uche, it's more complicated because of his role and lack of 3-down versatility and things like that. But I would throw him in that same category as well, that I feel like he has been somebody that, especially if he has a good year this year, I would expect that they should retain him. Now, Onwenu, I can take it or leave it on him. Great football player, like really good guard, but
solid.
I think they learned maybe their lesson a little bit with,
I'm hoping,
with Joe Thuney and Shaq Mason, that investing big cap dollars, especially in guards, is really not where you want to allocate your resources, especially when you used a first-round pick on the left guard. So now you have a first-round pick at left guard, you have a $10 million right guard. At some point, you need to spread the assets around a little bit more.
I want to make a better argument for Uche because I know everything you said. I mean, he's not a full-time player, but I do think that in today's NFL, I look at it a little bit different than I might have, say, in 2011 when they kind of had Mark Anderson in as like kind of in that role, I would say. Like it was, and I know he got elevated to playing starting defensive end after Andre Carter got hurt, but as you know, a designated pass rusher essentially, like. You need those guys. Like, you need an athlete like Josh Uche coming off the edge.
I agree.
I find it hard to – it's just I know you got to find what money makes sense. And if he turns in a 12-sack season this year, even if it's largely, feeding off of the team defense and just kind of being the finisher, I think the biggest thing for me is what Evan said. You drafted this kid, you developed him. You don't have a lot of these guys. You want to have some continuity in the locker room and guys who can kind of carry the culture forward year to year. You're not going to have. You already lost McCourty this year. You're probably going to lose Slater, if not this year. Within the next year or two. So, there haven't been a lot of draft hits, and I struggle for as much as I can say. Right. He's not an every down player, and he'll get paid somewhere else. And maybe
I agree. I'm less worried about him not being an every down player as I am him not being what we saw in the last 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, I'm fully ready to say, hey, look, he was a late bloomer. Took him a while. Maybe he was banged up a little bit first couple of years. Came into his own. And if that's what I see this year, I'm with you, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm less worried about him being a full-time player, because I think that role is very valuable,
especially in today's NFL.
I know. Yeah. You're playing. You're not playing a lot of snaps, but you're playing the most critical down in the game.
Now,
what
do
getting
you
off the field?
What do you pay for it? Is the question, and that's why,
a hard question.
The Shaq Mason deal. It was 3 for 36.
I think so. That sounds 12 years. Yeah.
I'd sign up for that for a Wenyu.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what Wenyu will sign for.
No, I think it'd be double that.
Because the free agents in their prime are going to get deals that are twice that size.
Yeah.
And that, I would say, I'm going to step back and say whatever it said. I learned from Tooney and Mason, two really, really good players, played at a very high level for the Patriots. We re-signed them, and it's not really the difference between winning a Super Bowl or not. I can get by with lesser at that position and save money.
Yeah.
Now, on one hand, I say you can save money. If I thought they were just going to spend it, I wouldn't care. But I do think it matters. Everybody's got a budget, and I think it matters. So I want to spend more wisely.
Stevie just he emailed in just to agree with you, Evan. If you haven't seen Panthers Super Bowl, go check it out. Great game, especially the variable touchdown. Fourth quarter was ridiculous. That is, in fact, true.
It's also fun to watch those games now because you know that they win. So there's the stress of them potentially losing the game is no longer
I
there.
always like when I watch games back then, because I was here every day, every game. And you remember, when Mike said that he talked to a guy who was an undrafted free agent, and he said T.C. Taylor. I remember T.C. Taylor from training camp.
Cross his name off every time he came
When
out.
you go back and watch that game, you see guys that you've never thought of in 15 years, never once.
Yeah.
And the guy that always sticks out in that game for me is Sean Mayer.
Oh.
Who, when they lost 9,000 safety, they lost Wilson, they lost Rodney, they just had to put – that was the version of Nate Ebner who had to finish the game at safety. Sean Mayer, undrafted rookie, I want to say
Not
out of –
John Mayer.
Sean Mayer. I think he was out of Penn State, number 39. When I watched that,
your secondary
I look and I was like,
was
who the heck is that?
We keep on
Dexter Reed.
No wonder why Carolina put up 30 points in the fourth quarter.
Oh, yeah, no, that was that was part of it. That was absolutely part of it.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for us. But
Ricky Prohl.
Don't go anywhere. The Catch-22 guys are up next, talking more football for the next couple of hours. And that'll do it for the rest of us, though. We'll be back next week, Tuesday. We're getting closer to OTAs and everything else. Off-season, feel the love.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.